Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Software Engineer K here, and today we're going to be revisiting the job application that I covered in the last video because I did see some of the developers that work there. I had a look through some of their GitHub, some of the work portfolios, and found some interesting stuff that I wanted to go through. We're also going to be going through some updates within the Ecomi fam community, and also some good links for you guys to follow. And we're going to be touching on a subject that I have been talking about with some of my investor friends. Which is to do with diversification and why Vivi has actually started becoming a platform for people who are coming to diversify their portfolios who aren't actually interested in the licenses or the brands themselves, and exactly why it is actually becoming such a good platform for diversification. And lastly, we're going to be wrapping up with our price analysis. So, I had a look again at the job application with Ecomi, so I covered this yesterday. And they had two current roles, a backend engineer and a game developer. Now, you can actually see some of the existing people that worked here. So I had a look through some of their kind of existing work, what they're doing, what their specialisms are. And firstly, I wanted to touch on one of the engineers, Kunal. He has a portfolio here. He's an author as well, and he's a senior full stack developer working for Ecomi, or specifically Orbis Technologies, which is kind of like the underlying blockchain behind Vivi. So he has gone and kind of just said, how much experience he has, where he works. So he's a developer based in India. It is always very, very tricky for startups such as Ecomi, where their developers are mostly remote. There are time zone differences and difficulties in communication as well when you are communicating purely remotely. So I guess that is one of the struggles that Ecomi currently faces, but there are ways to adapt to that as well. Now he is an author of information security, and he's got 6 years experience in it. And for those of you guys who were saying, oh, watch out, there are people getting hacked on Ecomi, I called out from the start. It was absolutely false. No one is getting hacked. Anyone who claims they've been getting hacked were falling for phishing scams, or all these other like various different scams that don't involve someone who's literally hacker man somehow getting into their databases, which are secured on the cloud somewhere. If they did this kind of stuff, this outside in kind of hacking would have been picked up, but there was literally nothing recorded on the servers. And kudos to the people who did come out honestly and say, oh, I took part in this escrow service, and the person who was holding my collectibles ran off with them. I have more respect for those people than people who fall for these phishing scams but then decide to blame Ecomi and make up some story that they were magically hacked. So when you have someone who's got this much experience, who's literally an author on security, he's written books on security, someone with that much experience, they're not going to let something simple like that creep through. And we live in a day and age where a lot of these solutions are built into the platform. They're using AWS, Amazon Web Services. They have built-in security. This is not even really that much of a that much responsibility on the developers themselves. And one of the other developers, Chin Ming, he is a developer who has developed he's developing Solidity smart contracts. Solidity is the language used on the Ethereum blockchain. I have done a little bit of hobby work with Solidity myself, built some smart contracts for fun. And this goes to a point that I was saying. I suggested to Reese that in order to secure wins with auctions, just to avoid people who don't pay, there should be some sort of form of smart contract where once the auction is complete, the person has their gems reserved and that transaction goes through. So, that we could actually see that because they have people with the experience in developing that. Now, although OMI tokens are on GoChain, they can develop smart contracts on Solidity as well, or on the Ethereum blockchain as well, using Solidity. And with regards to OMI now, there are people who are worried about how much extra supply there's going to be, but this is a really, really nice link to follow on Twitter, OMI Data, because this is what I've been talking about as well. Some of you may not remember because you're newer to the kind of OMI universe, but basically 97 billion tokens were accidentally burned So this was about 2/3 of the kind of supply that they were using for kind of, I think it was like a founders fund or something. But basically, 750 billion total. They would already burned nearly 100 billion, and to date, we've burnt nearly 4 billion tokens just from transacting on the market and our drops and whatnot. So this is really, really important to take into consideration because there hasn't actually been that much activity compared to where we could go potentially. As we get more and more drops and more activity on the marketplace, this number is going to increase exponentially. So think about that. Think about how much tokens are going to be bought back, and 300 billion is just never ever going to enter supply. That's for the kind of reserve wallet. So really, if you subtract the 100 billion from the 750 billion, that is 650. 300 billion doesn't even enter circulation. That's 350 billion, and then we're going to continuously burn down from that 350 billion. There's not actually that much that's going to be in circulation at one time. And if you look at the market cap of Ecomi, it's below 1 billion. And like I said, just look at the projects in the top 25. All of them are above 1 billion, and Ecomi is definitely a top 25 project. I would go as far to say that this is going to be a top 10 project, but that is once they've got the platform down solid, they've got their master collector program out, OMI staking, gem to OMI, OMI to gem conversions, all of that stuff, and a few more good licenses. They're going to be top 10 material. So the other thing I wanted to touch on is I did manage to get the Ultraman Ace today in the marketplace, and there are a lot of people who are actually buying these NFTs as a way to diversify. Now, why is that? Well, there was one guy who bought a Donny today for 27k. That's ridiculous. Here's the video of it, which is pretty cool. Ecomi retweeted this, which is apparently the most expensive purchase to date. Now, there are actually a lot of people buying these NFTs because when you look at cryptocurrencies such as OMI, Bitcoin, when you look at stocks, when you look at even property, commodities, gold, the main thing that all of these have in common is the exact same people own these. You look at Renaissance Capital, you look at JPM, all these big investment firms. They have these guys in Wall Street, with their portfolios that have, loads of farmland in there, gold, tons of like index funds, Tesla, and obviously a lot of Bitcoin in there as well, Ethereum and other cryptos. Now, because the fact that all of these guys, it's the same guys that own this stuff, they can, dump the market, manipulate the market, whatnot. And that is generally what we see when cryptos go down, everything kind of goes down. And what I have found is that with Vivi, even though OMI token is down, the exact same NFTs that I saw last week, they have essentially doubled in price. I'm seeing DeLoreans when they were selling for 270, 260 last week. This week they are selling for nearly 500, and that is because, and just think about this logically, the people who they're sat in their suits in Wall Street, they're not sat there on the VV app buying NFTs. These guys have no control over this marketplace. This marketplace is probably the most democratic marketplace out there. It is run entirely by fans. There is no market manipulation going on here. Okay, fair enough, there are people who are putting fake bids, but that's going to be resolved. But in terms of monopolies and whatnot, you don't have Renaissance Capital, for example, sat there buying up, all of the Ultraman Aces and reselling them for ridiculous prices. If the stock market were to crash, crypto market were to crash, your NFTs aren't going to crash. They're completely decoupled to, the value of Bitcoin, for example, OMI, for example. It is its own kind of internal ecosystem, and that is essentially what I wanted to highlight is anyone who's looking to diversify, retail investors specifically, Vivi is an amazing platform for diversification. That's what I found. And I have actually been using the marketplace a lot to pick up really cheap NFTs in auction. If you go to the auction, you can see which ones are ending soon, and you can snipe some pretty good ones. And just holding them for a while, I have seen that the value does appreciate quite fast as well, because the number of users entering the platform is going up exponentially. So that is something to take into consideration. Now, lastly, I wanted to touch on our price analysis. So if you go to the hourly chart, now yesterday I drew these trend lines here because we were sat around about here, and we did dip below, but straight away we wicked back above, and we've come back above this support line here, and we're trading sideways again. And if we go to the 4 hourly chart, because I prefer 4 hourly, we can see literally perfectly on that support before we had a slight move to the upside again and then trading sideways. And I believe we are going to continue to stay within this range. But what we can see, and if I continue with a bright color, let's use a bright pink, we do start to have an upwards trend coming now. Let's just move down slightly there. Yep. So what we can see is we are slowly moving back upwards again, and we might touch this. I did say we were going to retouch this, retest this resistance over here, but I believe we are going to have a pullback. I don't see us breaking this range until we have some significant stability in the crypto market space. Bitcoin continues to trade sideways, so that money starts to come back into altcoins, and we have some good news. That goes back to my point with what David Yu's been saying. He's saying that they are trying to get everything ready for the big announcement, because he said that the app is gonna, pretty much crash if they don't have everything ready when they release this big announcement. So that makes me very, very bullish. So I would say, if you want to sell and move to another project, that's your choice. But for me, I am going to continue taking advantage of the low prices and buying this dip here. So I am long term on Ecomi, like I said before. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go for you guys. I will keep you guys updated with anything new I find out. But like always, thanks so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe to support the content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.